Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this section, we're going to talk about Boolean data types in Python. So a Boolean is a data type that represents one of two values, either true or false. And these values are often used in decision making, logical comparison, and control flow. And in Python, Booleans are case sensitive. It means that when we would like to write them down, we need to use an uppercase first letter. For example, we don't have to write them like this. It's not correct. You see, these examples are not correct. If we want to write down true, we should write it with an uppercase first letter like this. Okay, so let me illustrate it with an example. Here I'm initializing one variable called is sunny and I'm assigning true to it. And I'm having is raining and I'm assigning the false assigned to it. So when I compile this code, I'm going to see two variables being printed in the output in the terminal. So the first one is this print that we are printing out the is sunny variable, and the second one is that we are printing out the is raining variable. So because is sunny equals true and is raining equals false, I would expect to see one true and one false in the output when I run the code. So let me just compile. So it is compiling. Okay, we see now one true and one false. So basically, we are assigning Boolean data types to these two variables. The first one is true and the second one is false. And we are simply printing out the values that are assigned to these two variables. In the next lectures, we are going to do some coding exercises using these Boolean data types to understand how they can help us to have a control flow, logical comparison, or decision making. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture. In today's video, we would like to write a program that assigns true or false to a variable and prints it. To do that, we learned how to declare a variable. So here I'm declaring a variable is underscore student and I'm assigning true to it. Okay, and I'm basically printing out this variable using the print keyword. So let me run the code. So when I run the code, I see true in the output. I could have, for example, is young equal false. And now here I am assigning a variable that is called, I'm declaring a variable that is called is young, and I'm assigning false to is young, meaning that it's not young, for example, or the person is not young. And using the print keyword, I'm printing out this variable. This could be y, this could be x, for example, this could be x. It's just the name that we give to our variable. So when I run the code, it's false. We see how we can declare and initialize a variable and assign true or false to it and print its value in the terminal in the output. This is how we can start working with Booleans in Python. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this video, we're going to talk about Boolean expressions. So Boolean expressions evaluate to true or false. So these expressions include equal sign, not equal sign, lower than, larger than, lower than or equal to, and larger than or equal to. Using these logical operators, we can have some output when comparing, for example, two numbers. For example, here I'm having a print keyword in Python, and in the parentheses, I'm checking if 5 is larger than 3. So if this equation is correct, it is going to print out true for us. And in this case, it is correct. So we expect to see a true in the output. And we are printing out 10 equals 20. This is not correct. Mathematically speaking, this is not correct. So we expect to see false in the output. And 7 is lower than or equal to 7. And this is also true mathematically speaking. Therefore, we expect to see true in the output. So let me first run this code by commenting these lines. So we are going to talk about these three first. So here I see true, false, and true. The first one, 5 is larger than 3. This is true. So we're having the true in the output. 10 equals 20. It is false because it doesn't make sense. And 7 is lower than or equal to 7. And it is true as well. So we're having the true being printed out in the output. So this is how comparison works in using Boolean expressions. And these are the signs. I'm going to repeat them one more time. So this is the sign for equal. So we are checking to see 10 equals 20 or not equal, lower than, larger than, lower than or equal to, larger than or equal to. Moreover, we are going to discuss logical operators. So we are having and, or, and not. So let me comment these three lines and uncomment these three lines. So I am having the logical operators true and false. So if true and false are together and we are using and logical operator, the output should be and must be false, let's say. If there is an or, the output is true, and when we are saying not true, the output is the opposite, so it is false. So when we are having one true and one false, and we are using the and logical operator here, the answer is always false if we are having one false in the output. Let me illustrate it with another example. So here, if I have true and true, the output is true. If I have false and false, the output is false. So let me comment these two lines so we can compare these three first. So when we are having at least one false when using and logical operator, the output is false. When both of them are true, the output is true. And when both of them are false, the output is obviously false. Okay? So, sorry, false. Okay? So this is how the AND logical operator is going to work. And even if the false is first and then we are having the true, here the output is again false because we are still having one false here. Okay, so let me run. Okay, so when we are using AND logical operator, if we at least have one false, the output is for sure false. If both of them are false, like this case, the output is false. And if both of them are true, the output is true. So the only possible option that the output is true is when we are having two truths using AND operator and logical operators. Okay, this is how logical operator is going to work using AND. Okay, so let me now comment these lines and talk about this line. So using OR operator, we are saying that if this one is true or the other one, okay? In this case, when at least one of them is true, the output is true. So if I run, you see true in the output. So for other cases, if I have true or true, print false or false. So let me run this code. So here I'm saying true or false, the output is true. True or true, the output is true. False or true, the output is true. And false or false, the output is false. So using OR operator, logical operator, if we have at least one true, the output is true. And if both of them are false, the output is false. Because we are checking to see if we are having at least one true when using OR operator. So either this or that must be true. If either of them is true, the output is true. But if both of them are false, the output is false. Okay. And finally, we are having the not logical operator. When I'm having true and before true I'm having not, it is going to return the opposite output for me. So the opposite of true is false. So when I run the code, we see false in the output. So this is a bit abstract for now, the logical operators. You may understand the context, but you may not see how it may be useful for the moment if you have no background in programming. But later on in the very same course, in the section where we are going to talk about if conditions, if and else and elif conditions, we are going to use these logical operators practically, and in practice and examples, coding exercises, you will see how practical they are. And you will understand their usage better, much better in that section. But this is just an introduction for you to understand what logical operators are. So we learned that there is and, there is or, and there is not. These are three logical operators that we are going to use. This is just an introduction, and in the section that we are going to talk about if conditions, we're going to use them practically in coding exercises. So I expect that there you will understand everything about logical operators. If you're not sure yet about the things that I told you about logical operators, don't worry. This is just an example here, just to give you a little bit of thoughts about these logical operators, and we're going to see them in practice later on this course. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to another coding exercise session. We're going to write a program that compares two numbers and prints whether the first number is greater than the second one. In order to do that, I'm initializing and declaring and initializing two variables called num1 and num2. I'm assigning 10 and 5 to them respectively. And in the output, I'm using the print keyword and I'm checking to see if the first number is greater than the second one using this comparison operator. So the first one is 10 and the second one is 5. So it means that 10 is larger than 5. Is it correct? Yes. Therefore, it is going to print true in the output. Okay. But if I have number 1 equal to 1, we expect to see the output to be false, as you see here. So this is how logical comparison operators uh, is going to work for Boolean's expressions. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. We would like to write a program that uses logical operators to combine two Boolean values and print the result. To do that, I'm declaring and initializing two variables. The first one is weekend, and true is assigned to is weekend, so it means that it is during the weekend. And I'm having the has homework to be false. So, for example, one student is in the weekend because it's true and has no homework to do. Okay. So we are going to use and or, I mean, this and or logical operators as the program wants to combine two Boolean values and print the result. Okay, so I'm printing out the result and I'm using logical operators. So when I'm having one true and one false, we learned that if we are using AND logical operator and at least one of them is false, the output is for sure false. So the output is false. And when I'm comparing a true and a false using OR logical operator, if at least one true is there, the output is true. Okay? So when I run the code, I expect to see false for the first one, and I expect to see true for the second one. I'm going to repeat one more time. So if we are using AND logical operator and comparing one true and false, if at least one of them is false, the output is false. And when comparing and using OR logical operator, if at least one of them is true, the output is true. If it is still abstract, the context for you, don't worry. It is normal. We are going to see practical examples of this to be more clear for you in sections that we are going to talk about if conditions. Please wait until then. This is just an introduction for you to know what logical operators are in general. Okay? So don't worry, it is normal. This is just to set the ground as an introduction. Then when I'm talking about if conditions, I'm not only I'm going to review these concepts, but also I'm going to provide you with practical examples so you see how how they work and what is the logic behind them. Thank you for watching. Wait until then. Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about truthy and falsy values. So in Python, non-Boolean values can be treated as Booleans in certain contexts. For example, truthy values that evaluates to true. They are, for example, non-zero numbers or non-empty strings. On the other side, values that evaluate to false are zero or none or empty, for example, strings. If I want to illustrate an example, we can use the bool keyword and the parentheses. In the parentheses, I can type down non-zero numbers as I mentioned here. So a non-zero number would be treated as a truthy value. So if I type down 1, for example, it is a truthy value. So on the other side, if I type down bool and in the parentheses I put 0, which is this example here, we see that it's a falsy value. Also, if I have any string that is not an empty one, for example, I'm having bool and in the parentheses I would have Reza Shahin, for example. Okay, so this is considered to be one truthy value. But if I have a bool that contains an empty string, it is going to be considered as a falsy value. Okay, this is how non-Boolean values can be treated in certain contexts as Booleans in Python. So to illustrate this example, I'm going to print these examples. How to do that? We just put them in print parentheses. Okay, we use the print keyword and then the parentheses. So in the parentheses, I'm having bool and number 1. I expect to see true because it's a truthy value. Why it is a truthy value? Because it's a non-zero number and this is considered to be truthy value. And for this example that we're considering number 0, we expect to see false. Why? Because in the falsy value, we expect to see number 0. Here we have it. And in this example that we are having bool and the hello string in the quotes, I expect to see true in the output. Why? Because it's a non-empty string and it is considered to be truthy value, so it is going to print out true for us, and it's an empty string, so we expect to be falsy value. We expect to see false in the output because an empty string, as I showed here in an example, is a falsy value. So when I run the code, we see this one, number 1 is true. When we're running with 0, it is false. When we are having a non-empty string, it is true, and an empty string is false. Therefore, in this video, we learned about truthy and falsy values and how non-Boolean values can be treated as Booleans in certain contexts. We are going to discuss these types of non-Boolean values later on in the following sections in coding exercises. And I'm just providing the introductions to them. So later on, when I'm going to review them first and then provide you coding exercises and examples, you have some clear idea that what these things are. Thank you for watching.